Got it.
There we go. We are recording. We are speaking with the one and only Billy Sheehan of Sons of Apollo, of Mr. Big, of, well, pretty much everything that's kind of cool. Especially, by the way, I just got to say the David Lee Roth Yankee Rose, one of the greatest songs ever recorded. Just gonna throw that out there.
Well,
But bonjour, as we say in Montreal.
good to see you again, Mitch, and
Ooh,
thanks for your kind words. I've
yes.
been, I just got back from LA working on the new Winery Dogs record, and
Yeah,
so I'm back up and running here in Nashville. So
yeah. That's
recording a lot in my home studio, so it's all
here.
good.
Before we get into the whole Lean Into It 30th anniversary, because it is one of those seminal records that needs to be discussed, dissected, appreciated, etc. What is the sort of the schedule for the Winery Dogs? I saw on, I guess, one of the socials, Facebook or Instagram, there was pictures of you and the guys out on the hills in the sun. And is that something that you're planning to put out in 2021? Are you taking it slow and it's 2022 and you need to have a tour with it? Or like, what's sort of the thought process, especially in COVID times?
Well, not much thought process. We're just gonna let nature take its course,
Okay.
which is a lot of what we've done in the Winery Dogs. We got into me, Mike, and Richie got into a room and just started writing, and we did a session about a month and a half ago, and then we did another session here just recently. So, but we like having no deadline,
Right.
no real plan. But we got a bunch of songs for a record, and we're doing the fine tuning on them now, and it's looking good. So ASAP, I guess, is the only accurate response to that. So as soon as we can.
As soon as you can. And in terms of style, are you stretching out what the winery wine? I can't speak all of a sudden. What the Winery Dogs are doing, or are you sort of going the ACDC route? Going, no, this is what we do. Let's give the fans more of what we do. What are we doing? Are we exploring? Are we sticking to the formula? What are we doing?
In my mind, it's pretty exploratory, and I don't think we're chained down to any one particular thing.
Okay.
Uh, that's probably up to a listener. Being as the three guys, myself, Mike, and Richie, it's going to sound similar to what we've done before because it's us. But there's already a couple of left turns within some songs, and it's I like I don't like doing the sameness thing. I was discussing that with somebody recently about artists that changed everything and they still managed to survive, like David Bowie after Ziggy Stardust. We all love Ziggy Stardust and Spiders of Mars. The next thing you know, he stopped it and went on to something else, but he still managed to remain incredibly successful.
Yeah.
So, but some bands are doing the same thing they've done 40 years ago. We love it, but it is the same thing.
Yeah, but you're also in a privileged situation where you can go do Sons of Apollo, you can go do Winery Dogs, and you can stretch your wings, outside of the or with different projects. Before I get
Yeah,
into lean to it, oh, go ahead.
yeah, that's hopeful. Like even I remember back in the '90s, I started a band called Niacin with Dennis Chambers on
Yeah,
drums and Hammond B3. It was kind of jazz fusion, progressive thing, and so if I wanted to go crazy, that was my opportunity. So that was always cool to have. And but yeah, I'm lucky to have a whole bunch of different bands I can work with, and it's been interesting recording for people in my studio here. People send me tracks and I play on them, and
wow,
they sent me the wildest, some of the more stylistically out of my range completely. But it was cool having to reconfigure myself mentally or musically to play, everything from country to electronic dance music to blues slide guitar players and female singers with piano and all kinds of stuff. So I enjoyed it very much. So within the Winery Dogs, we certainly will make a stretch. And I know we, we, we went out to lunch and dinner every day together as we were working.
right.
Had a lot of time to discuss what we'd like to do, and it was very much that we didn't want to be locked into one thing or painted into a corner. So we'll see how that turns out.
Um, when we first met or first interviewed, it was for Compression, the album, your
Uh,
solo album in 2001.
Yeah.
And your last solo album is 2009. Is that something that still interests you to still do Billy albums and just be out there doing your thing with no sort of expectations or
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, here in Nashville, I'm dear friends with Ray Lugier, who played drums on.
I love Ray. Ray's the
Oh,
greatest.
so great. He's out with Korn right now, and
Yeah.
he's a dear friend. And we've already sketched out a whole bunch of things, so I'll probably use him. We were just going to do
Ah.
drum and bass, but we may. But I also want to do a consider yourself warned. I'm gonna sing again. So I know how to clear a room out. I just get to that microphone and watch them run. So
Wow.
I'll be doing some singing on some tracks too. So we'll see what
And
happens.
who comes in on guitar, or is it just going to be sort of a rhythm section kind of thing?
We've had no guitar in mind, just bass and drums, pretty much. But
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So we may do some orchestration or some other things in there too. But it's just a wild ass bass and drum explosion. It's some
Oh wow.
pretty crazy stuff. So, but
Well,
we'll see. But I can do guitars on it too. And then we have a great engineer, Scott, who used to play with the Nixons. He's a great guitar player
oh
also.
wow.
So we use him for anything we'd need to. That'd be cool. We'll
That's
see.
actually kind of cool. And as soon as you say Ray Luzier, you know quality is happening, and then you say Billy Sheehan, you know wow, extra quality is happening. So this is going to be phenomenal. So let me ask you this then. So if there's no guitar, do you sort of go the Tom Peterson way and pull out the 12-string bass that can really sort of give you all kinds of textures and stuff? Or
Funny you should mention that, but I do have. It's not in this room. I got a Music Vox 12-string bass,
oh wow,
and
because you can sort of fake a guitar with one of those,
it's
kind
so
of.
amazing. You just play one note, and
Yeah.
it sounds like a song is being written. It's
Yes.
amazing. It's just so cool. And I have my eye on a couple other 12-string basses too. Now I don't want to encroach upon the wonderful and supremely talented Tom Peterson or Doug Pinnick on their
Uh-huh.
trademark sounds, but it's so awesome. And I've always been a sucker for 12-string guitars, double strings, and 8-string bass, double string. So now that I've got a 12-string bass, it's quite awesome. So
Wow.
I'm going to do
Hey,
something for that.
I mean, this is the silly question because you are a professional bass player, but is the 12 string a challenge? Like, do you have to learn it new, or do you just you know how to play and you just play?
It just requires a little adjustment because your fingers are pushing down 3 instead of 1. So you got to kind of flatten your finger out a little bit. And the plucking is pretty much the same.
Uh
I
huh.
I initially had an 8-string bass made, and I thought, well, let me put normally the fat string
Right.
is here, and the two lighter octave strings are above it. So when you pluck, sometimes you miss them. So I thought I should put the string on the other side. Turns out that's not true. You hit it perfectly fine when it isn't. So the 8-string bass I got is odd because it's got it on the other side, and I love it, but it's hard to play. So the 12-string, when you're plucking it, just as is, your fingers brush across those octave strings in the perfect way, and it makes this just amazing sound. It's quite awesome. Music Vox is the company, and they make some really cool, crazy looking instruments, but really cool. Plays great. Already comes with double output, so
Oh
I
wow.
don't didn't need to adjust much. But if you do a Google search, it's a great little company.
Oh, I will Google search them, and I gotta say, being a Cheap Trick fan, that sound is
Oh
just
man. Well, I
what a
went
sound.
to Gretsch made him
Right.
a beautiful 12-string bass, and we a friend of mine knows one of the guys that works there. So at a NAM show, the last NAM show that they had, I went and I said, "Yeah, you know that 12-string bass you make for Tom? Any chance okay, you
Gonna
could?"
throw on my May.
And I offered to pay. I said, we know whatever it costs. He goes, nah, we just make it for Tom, and it's going to be a lot of money. So I said, yeah, I'll I'll
Really?
I'll wait till I have some source of that kind of money again, and I'll.
Wow. I didn't realize they made them exclusively just for him. That's interesting.
I don't believe they're for sale to the general public. You could buy one, but it'd be about 12 or 14,000 bucks.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather send my kids to college, quite frankly.
Buy
Hey,
a car, maybe get a car
yeah,
instead.
yeah, get a new car, pay the rent. Listen, I
They
just,
are they're worth it. They're spectacular. It's beautiful. I've always loved Gretsch as a company anyway. So
I just had the bathroom downstairs priced for renovation, and they told me 43,000. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll
wow,
keep it for that. Not a, not a
yeah, I
bass.
might wait on that.
I might wait on that. But before we get into lean to it, and I keep saying before we get into it because I keep delaying, but your friend and ours, and a friend of mine, Phil Naro, passed away earlier this year,
Sadly,
sadly, and he had contributed something to a Kiss tribute record that I did that raised money for a palliative care home because my wife's father had passed away from cancer, and he was one of the first ones to run and say, "I'm going to help you with this."
wow, that's Phil.
That's Phil. And
That's Phil.
he was just the kindest soul. So any words about Phil just to remember? Sorry, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying that.
Wow,
Yeah, Phil was just, I mean, look at these goosebumps.
amazing. Yeah,
He's,
Phil was just a wonderful guy, great singer, one of the easiest people I've ever worked with in my life. Just never a problem, never any trouble. It's
yeah,
cooperative.
yeah, he just wanted to sing.
Yeah, and he had a great voice. And we finished the Talus record,
Yeah.
and it's just been mixed. Just finished with COVID. Everything took a long time because everything had to be done remotely. And he sang in Toronto while we had a Zoom for talk back as he was singing. He and I could talk back and forth about how to do what. And then on my music computer, which is out off screen right now, it was a program called Audio Movers, and I could hear in real time, with no delay, what was happening in Toronto. So we managed to do all the vocals like that. And Phil
Wow.
really stepped up to the plate. He killed on the vocals. So that new Talus record is just about ready to finally do the last steps before it's available. And I don't care about anything other than Phil's legacy on that
Right.
record. And he sang his ass off. Mark Miller on drums, unbelievable. We had Mitch Perry come in and guest on two songs.
Wow. Mitch is
It's
great.
great, super great. We're very thankful to him for that. But it's that record is about Phil's legacy. I love Talus and all my years and everyone that ever played in it. There's a lot of configurations of Talus, but that last one there, having Phil, it was just having him sing these songs again. We went back and we took all the old songs from 1985 when I left, and we thought, well, we could rewrite them and spice them up. And I said, you know what? Let's leave them just the way they were. Like you went back in a little time machine, and that's what we did, and that's exactly how we approached it. So
Wow.
we're very pleased with the record, and very pleased that Phil's voice is prominent front and center, and a fitting tribute to his legacy. So what a wonderful man. I
Yeah.
went back to visit his mom, and she's in her 80s, and Italian lady, and it was so touching because she just kept saying, why didn't God take me and leave
Right.
my son? Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was a sweet, wonderful lady, and he's surrounded by great people. And I'm glad to have known him, and supremely glad to do my best for him on this new record, so that his legacy is cemented.
Is that going to be sort of a difficult record to put out because every time you hear the voice, it's just going to bring you back? Is it going to be sort of emotional? I mean, you're listening to it now, and it's
Well,
got to be difficult.
yeah,
I would cry.
yeah, I understand that moment will probably come,
Okay.
but as we're working on it, it's almost like Phil is still here,
Yeah.
and so you don't really get the idea. You don't get that that we've lost him, and Russ McKay, the engineer up in Toronto, did a wonderful job on mixing and getting Phil to the mic and making it all happen. So we worked together back and forth on all the mixes, and we just it's kind of a joy to open up a Pro Tools file and hit play and hear Phil again. It's like he's not even gone,
Right.
but that will hit home, I'm
That
sure,
will
at
hit
some
home.
point.
And on the positive side, you did get a chance to capture it. Had you said, "Well,
Yeah,
let's make an album in 2022," it never would have happened, and now you got
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and sadly, I hate to say it, but just in time, as soon
Yeah.
after the record was done, he took a turn for the worse, and I remember I was recording in El Paso, Texas, and I saw the phone ring, and I saw who it was, this woman Lisa, who's taking care of all the TALAS business in Rochester. Lisa Inzon, a wonderful lady. Uh, as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh,
You get that feeling, huh?
here we go. And sure enough, we had just lost him. So it's a tough break for the kid. What a great guy.
Yeah, and again, from for me, when my wife's father passed away from prostate cancer, he was one of the first to call to say, "I'll donate a track, I'll donate this,"
Wow.
and then to have him pass away from the same disease a few years later is just like, oh,
Yeah,
it,
tough.
it was tough. It was tough for the family, and I had to tell my wife. I said, "Hey, you know that guy that helped out," and anyway, we shall
I get
remember
it.
him.
I get
We
it. I
shall
get
remember him.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Not to sound insensitive, but let's get over to lean into it for a second here.
Sure thing. I understand.
That record is seminal. You listen to the playing, you listen to the vocals, you have "To Be With You." It just, the whole thing was the perfect storm. Talk to me about how that came. You know, the first one came out and people were like, "Ooh, we got a great new band," but the second one, you, you delivered the goods. You knuckled down and you said, "Yep, here we go."
Yeah, it's funny. Usually, a band is together for years and years and years. They do their first record, and it's the culmination of decades of work and
Hmm.
performing and fine tuning those songs. And then the second record comes along. They got 6 months to make that one, and usually that's a sophomore jinx. You know, as people call it. That second record is a tough one. If you can get the second record in there, you're doing good. Ours was kind of reverse in that we had just gotten together and we're finding ourselves for the first record. It went really well. We're really pleased with that record. But then we went on tour and tour and tour and tour all over the place, and we hit it hard. Spent a lot of time together, a lot of tour buses, a lot of airports. So when we went in for Lean Into It, we were woven together pretty nicely as
Yeah.
players and singers. So that I think that was a contributing factor. And we just got together at Mates rehearsal in North Hollywood, where everybody
Everybody.
rehearses there.
Yeah.
It's just a little place. It's not fancy, but it's a Bobby Brunner who runs it. Just the most wonderful guy, and David Bowie, Tom Jones, the Guns N' Roses "Real Illusions" record, or
Yeah.
the yeah, "Real Illusions."
Use your illusions, and
Yeah,
of course there are Not in This Lifetime tours all been rehearsed at Mates.
yeah, everybody goes there. It's amazing. So there we were in the room pounding it out and figuring out what parts would go where. And me, Pat, and Paul would sit and work for a while. Eric would fly in on the weekend, do some vocals, fly back. We'd work some more. And we got some great stuff and it came together very well. And thank goodness for Kevin Elson, our producer, really got it together, brought us up to Berkeley, uh, California for Fantasy Studios, where a lot of great records are made. I think all the Creedence stuff was there, all the Journey stuff was there, or a lot of it, and just a great place. And our manager Herbie was another really important factor. Would renegotiate our deal with Atlantic and get us the highest royalty rates and the best. He held a gun to their head, and he was just an expert at that. So he made life easy for us in a way that the door was open for us to make the best record we could, and that's what we shot for. And you never know. We were on tour when that record came out. I forgot what the first single was, but it was out there and that went away. Next single, same thing. Next single, same thing. And we're sitting thinking, we're probably going to go back home and try another record, see if we can make something happen, because it just wasn't starting on fire. And then some guy in Lincoln, Nebraska by the name of John Terry started all on his own playing To Be With You, and it jumped all over the country and went crazy. And it was 100% organic success. We didn't have, because Atlantic had kind of,
They given up on you.
they sloughed us off. Even Lean Into It itself, when we presented it to the label, they didn't want to release it.
Really?
So it's pretty amazing, but they did finally, and reluctantly. And then,
Well,
and
let me
then
ask you about that when they did it, because bands have their albums rejected all the time, and then they go back in and they tinker with it. I mean, that's what happens. Did you actually go back and tinker with it and say, okay? Because I see Jim Valance wrote on there, and I love Jim. Did you say, okay, let's go talk to Jim. We need an extra song. Like, or did you just
No,
say you just kept throwing at him like, no, this is the album, stop it, just take it,
yeah, that's where the management comes
step
in.
in.
Hervey just said he loved the record. That's the record. You're going to
Okay.
put it out whether you like it or not. And he managed. Fortunately, he's a powerful enough man to do that. Very rare to have someone like that. But man, he made it. He made that band. He was the guy who made it happen, and in so many ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, we it was a tussle, but eventually. But then when "To Be With You" hit, then they were our friends, so that was
The
cool.
door's wide open.
Yeah, but we had one guy, Kevin Williamson was his name. He was our A&R guy. He was always on our side, and he was always fighting for us at the label, even at his own risk. Because you go back up a band that the label may not be into, that could be your job. They could say, "Well, you and the band can take a walk," literally. So, Kevin Williamson was very, very important for us at Atlantic Records and did a great job of making things happen. And
Let me ask you this about "To Be With You," and I'm going to preface it with a story of Doug Fieger of the Knack. I was speaking to Doug once, and I said, "Man, the Knack, My Sharona was the greatest thing ever." Blah blah blah. And he said, "No, no, no, no." He says, "You don't understand. It was a golden albatross." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Mitch, it paid for the pool, it paid for the house, but every time we went to the record company with a new song, they would say, 'That's really good. We don't hear another My Sharona.'" And so it essentially crushed him because
yeah,
he had to be the My Sharona guy. And of course, Pat Torpey played with the Knack for a while.
yeah.
Um, did "To Be With You"? The point is, was "To Be With You" just too big of a single where the record company on the next album said, "Hey boys, could you make another "To Be With You"?"
They didn't specifically say we want another "To Be With You." And I love "To Be With You." It wasn't an albatross to us at all. I mean,
Right.
it opened the doors to a whole worldwide. We went to every country, number one in 14 countries. And I
Yeah.
still love playing it. We look out, in recent gigs in recent years, 10,000 people with some with tears of joy streaming down their face. And they love the song. It's a wonderful thing. But we didn't have too much pressure. When the next record came out, Bump Ahead, they did want another song.
Another single, another
Yeah.
ballad, I should say.
So we all had a song that had do 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 do. It was this little guitar line in there, and I remember thinking, but isn't that Wild World? Do 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 do. Yeah, oh yeah. So when they asked us about another song, I thought, let's do a remake of Wild World, and and then we're done. Let's give them that, and then maybe they'll stop bothering us. And so we did. We had to raise up the key a bit because it was a little low for Eric to sing, and he did
Right.
a spectacular job of it. Paul's acoustic playing, and the thing just went crazy. We had another hit all over the world with that. So
Yeah.
we lucked out with that. But yeah, that was the only near to the scenario that you described that we had. They wanted something like that. And people also thought, well, you must hate that you got famous from an acoustic ballad. I go, I don't care. We had a number one hit single. It changes your life. I don't care if it was a birthday song. It opened so many doors for us and got us in so many places. And we had so many people that were into the rest of the record because "To Be With You" opened the door for them. So it was a blessing for us, I believe.
Does "To Be With You" still sort of pay the bills in terms of it gets placed in commercials and it gets placed in movies, and is it one of those songs that just has an entire other life to it that you just sit back and go, come on?
Yeah, it's pretty great. We'll go to some far off exotic place, and somebody in the airport. Were you guys in a band? I go, yeah, yeah. What band? Mr. Big. And they go, nah, no, heard. I go, I'm the one. Oh my God! And then people are running over and hugging us, and it's and when it was on the charts. We'd get on an airplane, and the flight attendant would go, "Well, were you guys in a band?" I go, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, "Mr. Big, no," and then we'd sing it to him. Oh my God, they'd move us up to business class or first class and free drinks and that. So it was amazing. I wish everybody could have a hit single. I know that's
Yeah.
impossible, but man, it was just and so many good, wonderful people, generous that just love the song and were so kind to us. It was an incredible
It is funny though that Doug Fieger though would suggest that a hit single is both a incredible blessing but also an incredible curse because
thing.
you
Yeah, I
can't be
remember.
artistic. You know.
I remember another band that we were compared to a lot because they had the same situation. Uh, we played with them at an open air show in Germany, and after playing that particular big hit that they had to the Civilization, the guitar player is a dear friend, and I love him dearly, but he must have been having a bad day. He stormed off the stage and threw the guitar, and I thought, oh boy, they're getting tired of playing it. It's not a good thing. But I've never been tired of playing To Be With You. I love playing it. And
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, I always look at bands and I hear some bands go, "Oh, I can't stand playing that song anymore." You know, I go, "But your whole life you were working to have that song. How can you?" Anyway,
yeah, it's true. Yeah,
it's like winning the Super Bowl and going, "I don't want the stupid trophy." It's like, but you practiced all that time to get the damn trophy.
you're in the Super Bowl. Yeah, it was an amazing thing. 14 countries. Uh, uh,
Wow.
3 weeks at number one. So it wasn't just a pop in and pop out. And plus, Prince and Michael Jackson both had songs ready to go into number one, up way high in the charts. Because our manager Herbie would say, you know, when you're in the top 40, you're in shark infested waters. The top 20, the sharks get bigger. And the top 10, they get bigger, faster,
Nastier.
and nastier. And so we did had an amazing
Run with that.
situation that we managed to stay there for 3 weeks, and it was pretty cool.
Here, let me finish with these two questions. First, true or false? "Addicted to That Rush" is Mr. Big's greatest song.
Well, our manager Herbie loved that song. As soon as we presented him, that's what I hear. That's Mr. Big to us, and so that was cool.
Yeah, it was a great debut song. I put on that album and I heard "Addicted to That Rush" and I went, "Baby, we're in. We're good."
Great, great. Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. The whole band, that whole first record, I remember listening down to the whole thing, top to bottom, and saying, "Great! I'm so pleased with how it turned out. I was very happy." But we came out at a time when it was a really crowded field. There was a whole bunch of guys that were in big bands, and then they broke off and started their own new band.
Yeah.
And there was Badlands, Blue Murder,
Contraband with Bobby Blotzer and Tracy Guns. There was,
and even under B in the record bin, there was about 20 new bands. So it was a crowded field, and most did pretty good. We all kind of ended up at the same level, but fortunately, we got a second chance to do another record, and it went well for us. But yeah, it was a crowded field we had, so that's my excuse for for the first album not doing as good as we wanted.
"Addicted to That Rush" did make it onto my cassette mixtapes that I have downstairs, and I still have it.
Right.
So there you go. And then last but not least, Eric Martin, the singer. He is wild. I mean, he sings great, and when he performs, and I've seen him perform with different bands. You know, what's that one that does the opera stuff with Jeff Tate and I'm blanking.
Christmas time. It's I can't.
Avantasia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's just fantastic. And of course, he tells his David Coverdale chop suey chicken salad story all the time, which we love. Just talk to me about him as a singer. I mean, is he tough to keep up with? Because he's wild and crazy and talented.
Well, I was looking for a singer, and Mike Varney,
Yeah.
who found Yngwie, my first national press and guitar player, Steve Vai, Paul Gilbert, and all these guys. Mike Varney would find these great players and hook them up to each other. Actually, he brought Yngwie to America to start a band with me. It was going to be me, Yngwie, and who's the Journey drummer that sings
Dean Castronovo.
And Dean from Wild Dogs. That was going to be the band. I was in Buffalo and they were on the West Coast. It didn't work out, but that was the original idea.
Really?
So I stayed in good touch with Mike Varney a lot. He's a wonderful guy and he's been helped so many musicians. And I did the Tony McAlpine album with him, Greg Howe album with him. So I said, yeah, I got a guitar player and a drummer, but I really want a singer that's, not just a high screamer. We want somebody with, got a real voice. And so he played me a few guys, and then one day he called me up and said, check this out. And he played me Eric Martin over the phone. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Steve Marriott, Paul Rogers, a real singer who's really got some pipes. And I went up to the Herbie Herbert's office in San Francisco to have a meeting with him. It turns out unknown to me, he was associated with Herbie. Herbie had done a couple deals for him, and so I thought, well, if Herbie manages it and he sings it, we're doing pretty good.
We're golden.
So we did, and he came down, and I always said this about. Well, I say this about a great singer. They take a C minus song and sing it into an A plus. And just be such a good job at singing it that the song is now a better song than it was as a demo or whatever. And so we did our first demo in L.A. and I remember playing it for people, and they just loved it and loved his voice. And he's quite a great singer, dear friend, and sadly we lost Pat, as we know, and
Yeah.
we don't know what the future of the band is going to be, but we're all in touch. And if something happens, I hope it does. Do a positive thing. We used Matt Starr on drums on we did a commitment of shows we had before Pat passed away. So we went out with Matt. It was great, and he was great. But we're looking at each other on stage. This Pat isn't there, so it was tough. So we're not sure what we're going to do or if we're going to do anything. But I hope we do, because I still love those guys very much. And
yeah, I hope you do something, and I think fans would understand, obviously,
sure.
and and if Ray Luzier is not busy, no, but there you go. So lean into it. 30th anniversary out now, and as always, always a pleasure. Merci.
Great to see you again, Mitch, and thanks
Yeah.
for doing what you do. You help a lot of musicians and a lot of bands out with all your coverage of their shenanigans, and it's always very much appreciated.
I love the shenanigans. I love that stuff.
Beautiful.
I'm totally enthralled with all this minutia. It's fun.
Yeah, I follow you on Facebook, and I always see it's always great and uplifting and positive point of view. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, I don't like to get into the whole negative stuff. I just
Yeah.
great album, and I love throwing in the mighty Mr. Big, the mighty Def Leppard, the mighty Bon Jovi. But there you
Oh,
go.
great.
Merci, monsieur. Have a good day. Cheers.
All
Bye now. All right,
right.
perfect.
Take care.
All right, good. Let me end that. All right, great.
All right, Mitch, thank you so much.
Yes, and I have another interview at 1 with Glenn Hughes, so I'm going to get over to that. But
Oh, great. Give him my best. So
I will.
what
He's
a
great.
voice. Probably I did a Frank Sinatra tribute, and he sang "I've Got You Under My Skin," and I've told people I think this is the best vocal performance I've ever heard in my
I
life.
have that Frank Sinatra because there was a Cheap Trick. Robin Zander did it.
Yeah.
Mr. Moonlight or Robin was on that too, so I know I bought it.
Oh man, it's just amazing. And he came in and did about 15 minutes. But then,
Wow.
hello, see you later. He laid it down.
But you know what? That's the best way to record. I think what we've lost in modern recording is that spontaneity and the vibe. And you look back to the Beatles and Black Sabbath, and there's mistakes all over. They're out of
Yeah.
time. They're ahead of the beat. They're behind the beat. But we love it like that.
Exactly. Mike Portnoy just pointed out in the beginning of Brown Sugar,
Yeah.
the speed compared to the end, and they speed up. By the end they're going way fast. And it's today they'd never allow that. You got to be on the grid and Pro
No.
Tools into the click track. And
It's horrible.
it's,
I mean, Charlie Watts, who recently passed away, would not survive the Pro Tool era. They would have just thrown him out.
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah,
he's one of the
sure.
greatest drummers ever.
I agree. I was a big fan for sure.